Good evening and welcome. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Trustee Hemingway Lynch will be attending the meeting remotely. She will be at the following address, 1700 South Miami Trail, Sarasota, Florida. We have a tobacco policy in place. There is no smoking within 100 feet of any school building. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. District Clerk, please take roll.
Trustee Knudsen?
Here.
Trustee Jerome?
Here.
Trustee Mitchell Morrell?
Here.
Trustee Goodrich?
Here.
Trustee Hemingway Lynch?
Here.
Trustee Raimondo?
Here.
Trustee Bishop? Thank you.
Bennett School Principal Gabriel Bono will welcome the board.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first board meeting at Bennett Elementary for the 2025 school year. This is a new school. It is brand new. Since last year, even with the transition committees and all the work, I'm still saying since last spring, we're going to learn and grow together, and we're still doing that today. What's new? What's new in Bennett? Everything is new in Bennett. I have to tell you, even though I've been here for quite some time, it's new for me. It's new relationships. It's going back and interacting with the kindergarten students, and greeting them. And I was sitting in the cafeteria just the other morning, and I said, "What's today?" And it was Wednesday, and one student said, "It's Blue Day today, Mr. Bono." And I said, "Blue? That's not a day of the week." They said, "It is." I said, "Well, it's tomorrow. Orange." So we're getting there. I'm learning. Today's Black and White Day, hence I'm in black and white. It's been a lot of fun. A lot of new relationships with the PTA. It's a whole new board. And we've been working since this past summer to plan for some great activities. The PTA, I want to give kudos to the board for pulling up a great welcome back picnic last week. Mother Nature cooperated. It was spectacular. It was wonderful. I got to see new parents. I got to see former students who are now parents, and just reminisce and talk about all the exciting times. What else is new in Bennett? The third grades, not only in Bennett, but also in Woodstock, went to Frost Valley this past Monday, which was yesterday. Seems like a long time ago. And they had a spectacular time doing teaming events. The fourth grade, also here in Woodstock, went to Wilson State Park and had a great field trip. And our fifth graders went to the Catskill Visitor Center and also took a hike on the Quarry Trail on the other side of the reservoir. We like to do those field trips early in the year. Just once the teachers know the students' names, get them out there so they can see the students in a different light. It provides so many great opportunities for relationships and relationship building, along with going to see all the local natural beauties in our district. What else is new? We have a PBIS committee. We don't have a student government anymore, but we do have a PBS committee that's going to carry all the successes of the previous years of our student government. And we're currently working and partnering with the PTA for our fall festival, along with our PBIS store, which is going to be open. It's over there. It looks like a mess, but it's actually an organized mess right now. And we're going to launch the store, I believe, this Friday. The students have been earning their tickets, and they get to go shopping. So there's a lot of excitement there. We also have newly created this year, I have an ELA and math liaison. And I'm going to introduce or welcome Amanda Kovac, who's our ELA liaison. She's going to share a couple of things what's going on in Bennett, and also Liz Corsido is going to share some things going on with math. Amanda?
Hello. My voice is a little bit off. September, you know, in elementary school, it's that time of year, so I hope you can hear me. I am the literacy liaison, and what that means is really offering some knowledge on the best practice and latest research through reading workshop, writing workshop, spelling, and of course, read-alouds. So we did have our first after-school meeting yesterday. K-5 staff were there, and we reviewed the next generation standards at a glance. And it was really amazing to kind of see the vertical alignment. We focused on writer's workshop. And we received new units of study. So we teachers were able to kind of bring the new units, unpack and look at that. And just the conversation was really deep about looking at the standards and seeing the different levels and how different levels can change. And so just to have that great conversation was really right now in the building, all students are writing their on-demand narrative writing assessment, and we'll be analyzing the data and moving forward for small group instruction. What's great about the on-demand is Christine Holly is our advancing literacy staff developer, and she's coming next week. So teachers will have that current data. We'll get to meet with a expert in the field and make steps forward right away. As part of the New York State Literacy Initiative, I did provide everybody with just the briefs, and we kind of just looked at the overall just so that we're current and just to see with that, and we connected it. The one we really focused on and just kind of discussed quickly was the science of reading and the role of writing, so it was kind of tied to what we were doing. Our next steps right now for Bennett is we will be looking and analyzing that data, continued with our running records. The whole building is almost there where we're already done with that data. We've done our NWEA maps, and we're excited to kind of start our small group instruction. The phonics decoding assessment we've done, and the spelling inventory. So our next, our goal here at Bennett is really meeting the needs of our students and finding their zone of proximal development. We don't want students bored, and we don't want them frustrated. And so really having that conversation as a team is going to be really powerful. It's exciting. So you'll see me as a literacy liaison, and I'm just going to close out because I am a book lover, and this little book of joy, I feel like this quote from this book stands out to me. I know, I always have to bring a book. So if you just focus on the thing that's making you sad, then the sadness is all you see. But if you look around, you will see that joy is everywhere, and that is our vision for Bennett here. Is that joy is everywhere in all that we do. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Liz Corsido. I'm a fourth grade math, science, social studies teacher here at Bennett, and newly with my new job as math liaison, I'm here to talk to you about some items that we've really been focusing on here at Bennett in the math department for the beginning of the year. So we are having an upcoming math faculty meeting next Monday, where our big items that we want to discuss are the STAR assessment, how it's used within the classroom, fluency practice in the classroom, and also a discussion about small math groups and how teachers are intertwining that within their regular math curriculum during the day. So the STAR assessment is a great tool that we have here. It's a multiple choice computerized math test that some teachers here are very familiar with. Some were just introduced to it this year, but they see it as a great assessment tool, formative and summative assessment tool. It's easy to use. The kids enjoy it. It makes it fun. They answer some questions. It gives us a nice readout of grade equivalency, percentiles, and it also helps us understand where their strengths are in math, and it also helps us understand where the weaknesses may be. And all that information from that one assessment really helps influence us in our small groups within the classroom. So what I also did is I touched base with every grade level at Bennett to see how they use the STAR assessment, if they've started to instruct with small groups, and how fluency practice is going. For example, in 4th grade, STAR assessment is one of the first things we do, and I know I use that data to help influence my small groups that I try to pull at the end of each math lesson based on their needs. And I know that, for example, with 2nd grade, they used the STAR assessment for the first time this year, and they're really looking forward to using it for assessment support. 3rd grade, first time giving the STAR assessment. They find the data really easy to read, and they're going to use it to help form groups in the future. 5th grade STAR test professionals, they did it. They use it once again to help with the small group work and fact fluency. 1st grade, they just administered the STAR math assessment, and they're using that data to help figure out specific interventions for their students. I think I got everybody there. And also another thing we're going to focus on in math this year is fluency practice. And fluency practice is the ability to solve basic math problems quickly and accurately. And at each grade level, that fluency increases. For example, in 1st grade, a great fluency goal would be to be able to have some snap facts from, adding and subtracting up to 10. But each grade level, that's going to increase. So some grade levels they're picking a day during the week. For example, I do Fridays, Fluency Fridays, where I use assessments and data to help inform my groups in terms of where that fluency is strong, where it's weak, what we can work on. And we have stations for our full math time. And I see a lot of the other grades trying to incorporate that as well to get those fluency skills built up, those foundational skills there to continue working with our brand new math curriculum, Illustrative Math. All right, thank you.
This concludes the principal's report. Do you have any questions for me?
I have a quick question. I may have missed it, and I apologize for being late. I'm wondering if Bennett is still collecting plastic bags and film this year.
I'm sorry to say we're not. In all the new that's happened this year, this is the first time someone's mentioned it. I haven't even thought about it. I'm sorry. And I used to teach biology, and I do love this one earth that we have. Sorry.
It's okay. I think Hannaford still collects it for the
do.
community.
They do.
And that's good because I have a big bag at home.
Please go to Hannaford. We don't have our recycling bins here. We're not set up for that. Yes, sir.
I have an easy one. What does PBIS stand for?
Positive behavior in school.
Okay.
And
it's a student council, essentially? Or
No.
You said it's in place of student government. That's what I was confused.
Yeah. So in New York State, there's a student government that starts in 6th grade, and it's governed from the state down to us. And since we don't have 6th grade, we don't have student government anymore. But we always relied on the students for fun. They were more experts than us grumpy old adults. And so we really wanted to, yes, I did. Thank you for the correction. Ms. Kovac wanted me to share with you that actually PBIS is Positive Behavioral Intervention System Support. But we tell the kids it's positive behaviors in school. Just be nice. And that was a nice way of doing that. Thank you, Ms. Kovac. For the record, she corrects me all the time. That's why she's here, because she corrects me all the time. Anyway, to help with the fun and not replace, because we can't replace the student government, but to carry on the good initiatives that they started, we use a group of adults, TAs, teachers, to have some fun activities. So our first big event, so not only do we have our daily rewards and then the school store for PBIS, we also have a big event happening at Fall Festival. And that's came from the student government a couple of years ago. They said, you know, a lot of times the PTA has events at night, and not everybody can go. So it was their idea to start having some celebrations during school so all children could celebrate. So the first Friday, no, not the first Friday, excuse me. Friday, October 25th, will be our Fall Festival. We'll take the afternoon, and we have a series of activities, and I'll tell you about that later on. But it's a big party.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions for me? Have a great evening.
Thank you all for your presentations.
Thank you.
All right, on to item 3.01, acceptance of minutes. The Board of Education hereby accepts the minutes from September 10th, 2024. May I have a first? Trustee Raimondo, second. Trustee Jerome. Any questions or comments? All right. Trustee Knutson?
Aye.
Trustee Jerome?
Aye.
Trustee Mitchell-Morrell?
Aye.
Trustee Goodrich?
Aye.
Trustee Lynch?
Aye.
Trustee Raimondo?
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. Thank you. On to item 4.01. Mike Rossi of Weston Company will present the district's external audit. Welcome, Mr. Rossi.
Okay, so as per the 5-point plan in New York State, I met with the audit committee on September the 16th, and we had a long drawn-out discussion of the financial statements. One member was in California and on the phone. So that is my job as the auditor, is to present to the audit committee, and the audit committee's job is to make a recommendation to the Board of Education for acceptance of the audited financial statements. So with going through that with the audit committee, I thought I would come tonight, give you a brief overview of the financial statements. Once the financial statements are accepted by the Board of Education, they go to OSC, SED, and then Monica and I will both certify it and send it off to the federal government because we spent more than $750,000. So the financial statements have no new GASBs for the year ended June 30, 2024, and they're in the exact same format as they've been in the past. The financial statements always start with our opinion, and we say, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly. As I told the audit committee, that is an unmodified opinion. That is the highest opinion we have as a profession. After that, the financial statements go into pages 4 through 15. 4 through 15 are management discussion analysis and full accrual financial statements. GASB came out with GASB 34 20 years ago and said all districts in the country had to include an MD&A and full accrual financial statements. New York State does not allow the district to keep its books and records on the full accrual. And what the full accrual does is brings in long-term liabilities. So you would see that our net position is negative. But that is typical in almost all of the 32 school districts that we audit. After MD&A, full accrual, you get to modified accrual, and that is how we keep our books and records. And in there is a balance sheet on page 16. And I consider that the most important page in the financial statement. It is set up in column format, and the columns are starting with the general fund, and the general fund accounts for almost all of the activity that happens in a school district. And all the way at the bottom of the page 16, you have fund balance, and you have a number in unassigned fund balance of $2.4 million. That is agreeing to 4% of next year's budget, and that is the amount allowed by Real Property Law 1318. So the district has complied with the requirements of the fund balance. Second column, the special aid fund, it has no fund balance. It never will have fund balance. We receive grants. We receive Title I, 611, 619, other title grants. Plus, we've been getting our ESSER, CRISA grants, and those grants require us to spend the money prior to receiving the revenue, so thus it would be zero. The third column, the school lunch fund, that accounts for the lunch activity, and you can see that there's some non-spendable fund balance. That's inventory, that was food and commodities, things left over on June 30 that were counted up and valued in a form other than cash, and then it has some assigned fund balance. CM Miscellaneous Special Revenue Fund is just the scholarships that the district has to pass out at graduation. So when donations come in during the year, it goes into the CM Miscellaneous Special Revenue Fund, and then we pass them out at graduation. And then the capital fund has a positive $8 million, and that is because we have funded the capital fund and we are doing the projects into the future. So as the projects happen, the capital fund will go to zero and then will be eliminated from the financial statements. So that is the most important page in the financial statement because it shows the position of the school district the way New York State requires you to account for your books and records. After that, we have pages 21 through 49. Those are the notes to the financial statements. And the notes provide detail on our procedures, our policies. Some of the notes go through all of the fund balances that we have listed in the general fund. They talk about our fixed assets. They talk about our debt. So really integral to the financial statements as a whole, provide a lot of detail to the reader so the reader can understand the numbers. After that, we go into required supplemental information. It's required because GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, said it must be part of the financial statements, and since they set the hierarchy for financial reporting, that is why it's included. And it includes a budget to actual for the general fund, and the reason that is because the general fund is the only legally adopted budget a school district has. So the voters vote on the budget in May, so that's why it's legally adopted. Then we have supplementary information, and supplementary information means somebody other than the GASB required it. In this case, it's either OSC or SED. And in there, we do have a calculation of the 4%, and the readers can see that we are right at 4% as allowed by Real Property Law 1318. After that, page 59 and 60. I don't like this thing. It keeps bouncing. Page 59 and 60. That's the next opinion from Weston Company. This is a unmodified opinion, and it's an opinion on financial reporting. So we come to the district, we do the audit, we provided you with this financial statement tonight, but we can't do the financial statement if we're auditing our own work. And here it's an unmodified opinion. You have an excellent, excellent business office. We audit a lot of school districts and BOCES, and this is one of the best business offices. Monica, Deb, Kim, the whole team do a great job year after year after year. And trust me, we are just starting an audit down the road. So we're here finished. So big kudos to them. Then after page 59 and 60, we have our independent auditor's report over the federal programs. Because the audit is considered low risk, because we've had audits in the past, they've been timely, we have to audit 20% of the federal grants. The federal grants were about $3.3 million. They are listed out in the financial statements. Let me tell you the page. 64, it's actually 3.8 million. And even though we had to audit 20%, because of the way the grants are set up, we actually audited 2.2 million of the 3.8 million, and we had no issues. All the money was spent in the manner that the grant required. So that's excellent. Then finally, we have extra classroom activity funds. The extra classroom activity funds are in this financial statement because the board has oversight over those clubs. We do have a qualified opinion in the extra classroom, and the reason for the qualified opinion is it is cash basis, right? So we don't know what happened at the point of collection. How many people came to the dance? How many cars got washed? How much product got sold? Did they net it and go have lunch? But from that standpoint, when the money went in the bank and when the checks were written, we had no serious issues that were disclosed. We did have a minor management letter comment on the extra classroom. The Board of Education will be given a corrective action plan for that. That needs to be sent in 90 days after we submit this report. I have given Monica an electronic copy of this report. That is the way you submit it to OSC and SED. So if the audit committee makes a recommendation to the board to accept the report, that will probably go in tomorrow. So overall, excellent audit, continues to be phenomenal. The books and records, no issues. Everything is done timely and everything is done correctly. So thank you. Are there any questions that anybody would like to know about? And Madam Superintendent does a good job too. She said hi to me this year. So.
No questions for Mike? Thank you very much. Oh, Trustee Jerome.
I'm just assuming that the audit committee has this buttoned up. I thank you for your presentation. I followed thoroughly. Thank you for keeping us such a tight hold on our finances. But yeah, at a first glance, like nothing comes to mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have such trust in Mike and the audit committee and the team, and really appreciate all that our business office does. You're all so spectacular, really. It's great to hear from a professional like Mike Rossi that we're doing such a good job.
You really are. You're really lucky to have the people that you have in your business office. So.
Great. Thank you so much. Yes.
I just wanted to second that, or third or fourth, I'm not sure. Say thank you to Mr. Rossi because his firm is always wonderful to deal with. But really, the business office is wonderful. The brunt of the work goes to our district treasurer. And we are so fortunate that Deb Duprell is our district treasurer and is incredibly meticulous and does everything exactly the correct way. So I felt like I needed to share that.
Okay, I think we're all set.
Okay.
Thank you so
very
much.
And I will see the audit committee in May, and then I will see you guys back again in September. No, I come to the May meeting before we start our work. And we'll talk about the new GASBs that are coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a recommended action, be it hereby resolved on recommendation by the Superintendent of Schools that the Board of Education of the Ontario Central School District accept the external audit report for the 2023-2024 school year. May I have a first? Trustee Goodrich, second. Trustee Knutson. Any questions or comments? All right. Trustee Knutson?
Aye.
Trustee Jerome?
Aye.
Trustee Mitchell-Morrell?
Aye.
Trustee Goodrich?
Aye.
Trustee Lynch?
Aye.
Trustee Raimondo? Okay, great. Thank you. That's unanimous. Item 4.02. Janet Diamond, our interim claims auditor, will present the end-of-year report for 2023-2024. Welcome.
Hi. It's good to be here. Obviously, this is from last year's report, so I was not the claims auditor, so I'm just giving Danny's report for the board. So basic findings are occasionally there was an invoice number that was incorrect on the claims, and so the suggestion was to just take a little bit more time to review for accuracy. And anytime it's brought to the accounts payable clerk, it's always fixed immediately. Another issue was missing signatures on a claim voucher. Sometimes upon alphabetizing each check run, this would be a good time to take a final look for a signature and make sure that all the claim vouchers are signed. Since making the AP clerk aware of that, it's improved already. And then the final finding was that the remit to address for some vendors was incorrect. Oftentimes they update their addresses, so it's just a matter of reviewing and making sure that we are updating the addresses in the system so that the checks are mailed to the proper address. So whenever that, again, that's brought to the accounts payable person, it is corrected immediately, and then we're able to to make sure we have the updated documentation in the software that we use. That's all.
Any questions for Ms. Diamond? Thank you for your thorough report. The Board of Education hereby accepts the claims auditor end of year report for 2023-2024. May I have a first? Trustee Raimondo, second. Trustee Mitchell-Morrell. Any questions or comments? Okay, we'll vote. Trustee Knutson?
Aye.
Trustee Jerome?
Aye.
Trustee Mitchell-Morrell?
Aye.
Trustee Goodrich?
Aye.
Trustee Lynch?
Aye.
Trustee Raimondo?
Aye.
Awesome, that's unanimous. Thank you all. Item 4.03, Sarah Turk, our school counselor, will give a presentation on school counseling. Welcome, Sarah.
So John, what, forward? Okay. All right, I got it. So my name is Sarah Turk. I am a school counselor at the secondary level. I'm the director of school counseling. I don't want to hold it the whole time. I'm sorry, I'm tall. Apparently you need to lean into this. I'm going to start with the background information, and then we're going to go into a general overview, and then based on the request for information that we got a couple weeks ago, we're going to segue into more of the secondary planning and some outcomes that I've prepared. If I talk like this, you can hear me. It's just not for the recording. Okay, I'll do my best. So in the 1920 school year is when New York State updated their regulations, and the main takeaway points are they're bringing this into the 21st century. Prior to this point, counselors were referred to as guidance counselors. They did mostly scheduling. There wasn't any strict master's degree programs that had licensing with the state. So they have recognized that this is an actual profession. There's a master's degree. Part of the language that they included is access to school counselors kindergarten through 12th grade. And we had to update the plan to reflect that for the 1920 school year. That was the last major overhaul of our school counseling plan that we had. Since then, we've been trying to get back into the groove of things post-pandemic and actually have consistent school years. And we'll see in the outcomes there's some blips in data that can be attributed to the disruption of the educational process that we've had over the last couple of years. Again, the regulations were put into place for the 1920 school year, access to all students K through 12, and the main takeaway lesson that I want everyone in this room to understand is we're not guidance counselors, we're shifting away from that, we are school counselors, we're mental health professionals, we all have master's degrees. Our certification reflects that, and I'm so happy that on the district website it now says School Counseling Department. The regulations are trying to become more in line with ASCA. ASCA is the American School Counselor Association. While New York State doesn't 100% align with ASCA's standards, that's the vision, that's the dream. Our school counseling plan. So there's three main domains. It's academic development, career development, and social, emotional, or personal and social development. The only significant changes to the plan, as I see it, for this upcoming 24-25 school year are the shift in staffing. We had a closing of an elementary school. 4th grade was then staying in Woodstock. 6th grade is moving to the middle school, high school. Everyone knows what they need to do. It just needs to be updated and reflected in the plan. So staffing. This is the staffing that we have for the 25 school year. At the middle school, high school, there are 4 school counselors, 2 school psychologists, 2 school social workers. At Woodstock, there's 1 of each, except at Bennett, there's 1 of each, but the school counselor is actually shared between Bennett and Woodstock, covering all the career lessons. Then we have 1 district-wide shared social worker who is more indirect services. So we're often confused and we step on each other's toes a little bit, but really we work very collaboratively together in supporting the students. The best example that I can give before I go into detail of who does what is you can make a medical analogy. So the school counselors are really your generalist. It's who you're going to make an appointment with for your annual checkup once a year. You go in, they weigh you, they do your blood work, they kind of assess how's your overall health. If there's something wrong, they'll make a referral to someone else depending on what you need. So for school counselors, we're the generalists. We can meet with the students, we're going to assess whether they have mental health needs, academic needs, and we'll talk to them about career and college. The psychologists, they're going to do the psychoeducational testing. They're going to do lots of individual group counseling sessions with targeted groups of students. So while the school counselors are a Tier 1 service that are accessible for all students, only students who have been identified as needing a higher level of care are going to be meeting with a school psychologist or a social worker. The social worker is going to be hugely important in crisis situations and for students who need coordinated help with their family and the community, if that makes sense. There's a little Venn diagram for you to reflect on. You'll see that we all overlap in the middle in providing social emotional counseling to students. We also have some overlap with academic counseling, depending on their IEP or 504 mandated counseling. Of course, in addition to their mental health needs, we're looking for them to be successful in school. Social workers, again, they're going to be the mental health concerns and community agencies. Psychologists are going to do the psychoeducational testing. They're looking for learning disabilities and how we can serve students that way. And the counselors are uniquely qualified to do career counseling. So moving back to the plan, I had mentioned earlier that we have 3 main domains: academic, social emotional, and career. Under academic, we're going to have refined study skills. We're going to work with students on improved organizational skills. If a student comes to me and says, I'm not doing well in geometry, I need a tutor, we're going to find them a tutor, whether that's outside of school or a peer tutor. We adjust secondary course placement based on achievement. This is within the confines of graduation requirements because ultimately we want students to have a high school diploma. And then we plan the academic courses to match their post-secondary goals. For a student who wants to be an electrician, we're not going to be pushing them to necessarily take AP US history. We're going to encourage them to pursue BOCES, where they can get hands-on training and certification to be an electrician. It's very customized, it's very unique to every single student. Personal and social development. We have individual counseling sessions, peer mediation. We role play a lot to help students work through their conflicts, whether it's with a teacher, with a parent, with a friend. There's a lot of de-escalation of emotions, a lot of anxiety management post-pandemic. This has definitely been a huge increase since pre-pandemic times. We've tried to create more ways for them to self-soothe, breathing techniques, manipulatives in the office to patch them up so that they can go back to class and continue functioning. And we support SEL group instruction. SEL is social emotional learning, which is regulations in New York State where we are grouping the students and working with students to provide social emotional learning. While the school counselors do not own that instruction and we do not all do SEL groups, we support it with the social workers, the psychologists, and teachers who are also working in that capacity. And then, of course, we work with outside agencies like CPS, probation, Astor, and LaSalle. Actually, before I go on to career, personal and social, there's a lot that goes on in the counseling office that is creating an environment that's a soft landing for students who are highly stressed out. We have school supplies that have been donated by staff and community members. We have toiletry items, deodorant, shampoo, conditioner, things that students in our community don't have access to. There's quite a large percentage of students who are on free and reduced lunch, and I think right now that's being underreported because so many students are already getting free lunch, so they don't need to fill out the form to get the free lunch. There is a constant stream of students in our office who are looking for a backpack, a folder, a pen, a pencil, and we work really hard to make sure that we kind of have a home space for them so they can come in as like a supportive family unit, get what they need. All right, career development. So school counselors, we go in to do classroom lessons, we do self-discovery, we have classroom presentations so students at the high school can learn more about Ulster BOCES. Ulster BOCES has both the Career and Technical Center and the New Visions programs. Career and Technical Center is your vocational programs like culinary, cosmetology, aviation, welding, auto mechanics. And then the New Visions program is more of an internship opportunity for students that are seniors and seniors only. They can take classes in conjunction with SUNY Ulster for college credit, but they are in the health professions, education. There's one in audio engineering and robotics. We also work with students to connect them with the Community Mentor Program, which used to be done by Kay Goldbeck. If you've ever visited her presentations, the kids did these amazing presentations based off of their experience working with a mentor that she connected them with in the community, and that is going to continue this year with Mr. Epstein. We also have tons of representatives coming into the counseling office to meet with students, colleges that are visiting, and military always comes. What we do is we'll get that information from the representative who is coming to visit the school. We post it for the students. We put it on announcements. We encourage them to come. If in our meetings with students they have said, hey, I'm really interested in SUNY Canton, we make sure that we note that in our Naviance program. And then when we have that representative coming from that college, we can call those students down that have expressed an interest in the college. Boys State is another great opportunity for students who are interested in potentially the military, public service, law enforcement, fire department, and we connect students who would be appropriate for Boys State. All right, so in the request for information, there was definitely a concentrated questioning on career lessons and post-secondary planning, so I'm gonna kind of step away from the elementary level and focus just on the secondary stuff. How do we get into the classroom and do these career lessons, which is the school counselors and only the school counselors? The career development occurs in classroom lessons and during our annual individual meetings with students. So just like a medical professional, you go into the doctor once a year for your checkup, our students come in and meet with us once a year for their checkup. In grade 6, we pushed into the science classes. This year, I'm expecting that we'll push into grade 5 in preparation for them coming down next year as a 6th grader. This year, it was twofold. We pushed up to the 6th grade class and the 5th grade class. So the 6th graders, we push into the science class. 7th grade, we visit the home and careers class. 8th grade, we do social studies, and the Naviance accounts are activated in their technology class. And then in the high school, we visit English classes multiple times a year. So what is Naviance? Naviance is essentially an online school counseling office. It's from beginning to end of exploring careers and then linking those careers with colleges and programs. It's about self-discovery, learning about yourself and what strengths, weaknesses, interests that you have and how that would tie into a career, and then tying that career into a program at college. So we start in 8th grade with a career cluster finder, and then in 9th grade, the students do a strength explorer. In 10th grade, they'll do a personality type. In 11th grade, they'll do the career interest profiler. And then in 12th grade, they should have a plan. We just pushed into the 12th grade English classrooms last week. Varied different post-secondary outcomes, and we had to really break down into individual groups because it's not one size fits all. And we work with the students to fill out applications, job applications, college applications. If it's required, they can complete a resume. We do mock job and admissions interviews also as well. And we do the interviews in conjunction with the English teachers. They'll set up a time with us, and we volunteer to interview the students as necessary. All right, so I keep mentioning this annual review meeting with students, and when we meet with them, we're going over everything. We're looking at their academic record. We're looking to see if there's a trend. Do they struggle in math historically? Have they met the graduation requirement? What's your long-term plan? Are you planning on going to a 4-year college or a 2-year college? Do you need to have Algebra 2, or do you need to have 3 years and get your graduation requirements out of the way? It's very specific and very unique. We then plan courses for the upcoming school year, and then we discuss career goals and necessary steps to achieve them. We also do a little emotional check-in. How are you feeling? How's everything going? At this point, since we are establishing a relationship with students as early as 7th grade, by the time they get to senior year, we know them very well. We know their family history. We know who they may have dated, who their best friends were. Did they play on the soccer team? And there's a level of trust and rapport that they can really tell us what's going on, and we can quickly assess if they're feeling a little bit more anxious or there's something more going on. So now we're going to shift into outcomes. This data was pulled from the last 5 years. So we have class of 2019, and then we have class of 2023. 2024 is not yet fully approved, so I left that off. You'll see that there is a dip in the local diploma, and the reason for that is with the COVID exemptions on Regents exams, it didn't matter. The kids weren't allowed to take the Regents exam, so they passed the requirement. It didn't count against them. As you can see, everyone was receiving a Regents level diploma or an advanced Regents diploma. Advanced Regents diploma, for those of you who don't know, that requires additional math and additional foreign language. There is a small proviso for students who don't pursue the 3 years of required foreign language. They can do a 5-credit sequence of music, art, or business or technology, but most of our students who are that savvy, they're going to continue taking the foreign language and they're going to pass the checkpoint B. And then they need to do Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. So this is student self-reported post-secondary outcomes. I tried to pull the largest group. So we have a couple of students who are, well, we always have students who are like, I don't know what I'm doing. There's always 1 or 2 that we really have to work with to make sure that they have a plan and they know what they're doing. Most of those students are burnt out. They don't want to do school. So we end up working with them to recognize, like, you need to find a job. You need to start looking for a job. Let's make some phone calls. But in general, this is what we have. A gap year is where a student is not quite sure what their next step is going to be. They're going to take a break. They're going to find themselves. They may go do AmeriCorps. They may go volunteer somewhere. They may be an au pair for a year. We've had some students who have applied to 4-year colleges get in, and financially they're not quite ready to take on the commitment. So they'll go to Europe for a year, which doesn't quite sound like a bad plan. And then they defer their acceptance and go to college the following year. You'll see that in the 14-15 school year, we had about a 20% employment rate. And in the 23-24 student self-reported, we had about an 18% employment rate. So even though there's a big dip in the middle and it kind of gets a little like 5%, 21%, 16%, 17%, the kids were all over the place. There was definitely a shift that we've seen in the last couple years during the economic situation that we're living through, where students are not interested in going to college and taking on debt. And I respect that. Every student has to find their own path. So I think that's what we're seeing with them trying to figure out where they're going to go and how that's going to play out. And then we have students who reach out to us 2, 3, 4 years after they've graduated saying, hey, I think I'm going to go to college. These are the colleges that I'm thinking about. Can we talk for a little bit? And we'll have a conversation with them, talk with them, fill out their recommendations, get all of the paperwork that we've had stored for them, and help them apply to college years after they've graduated from Ontiora. I do think that in the future we're going to see a shift in some of these graduation rates for 2-year colleges, 4-year colleges, and employment, only because of the numbers that we're seeing at BOCES right now. So typically we've had about 50 students total at BOCES. You can say that's 25 seniors, 25 juniors. This year we have 70 students. Now for a very small school like Ontiora, that's a significant jump of students attending BOCES. Most of those students may not be college bound. Many of them may decide, okay, I have my HVAC degree, but my certification, I'm now gonna go to Hudson Valley Community College and seek construction. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to play out, but we're watching it to see what it actually means. This is just a glance. This does not even touch the tip of the iceberg with phone calls and emails and hallway conversations with students and with staff, but just quick stuff that I could gather together from my peers. Last year we did 52 classroom lessons, grades 6 through 12. We did 489 annual individual meetings. That's one-on-one meetings with students doing their check-in. Yes, that does not match up with the full student enrollment because we do have some students who are chronically absent and it's very difficult to get a hold of them. We're lucky if we can communicate via email with them what classes you're going to take next year. We have crisis assessments. These are suicide assessments that we participate in with the school social workers and the school psychologists. I have 5 that were confirmed at the middle school, and there are 4 that were done at the high school. I actually think that number is a little lower, and in talking to my colleagues, we think that those were the number of students that were actually sent to the hospital, not the ones that we did. We do a lot more than what is actually sent. And then we did 2 field trips to SUNY Ulster for students who have won the President's Challenge Scholarship. That is a unique program where community members sponsor onto your students free tuition for 2 years to get their associate's degree. And those are your historically underrepresented, economically disadvantaged students, first generation, who would not otherwise be able to go to college. And we have been doing that, I think, for like 5 or 6 years now. So it's grown to probably like 30 students that will go and take them to SUNY Ulster in the fall, where they meet with their donor, their sponsor, and then they'll go back again in the spring. Indirect student services, we had 34 collaboration meetings. This is our weekly case conference. We meet with the school nurses, the social workers, the psychologists, and administration to discuss what's poppin'. Who should we be watching out for? What's happening? Do we need to collaborate? I have a really difficult situation. I'm not quite sure what services this student can tap into, and we can share ideas and find out what best work for these kids. We had 109 parent-teacher conferences and 2 evening parent meetings via Zoom to cover college admissions process and the financial aid process. So, in closing, and I'm going really fast because I know the questions part is really where everyone's gonna chime in. What we do is very unique and specialized to individual students' needs. It's gonna be really hard to give generic answers when everything is so specific to an individual student's post-secondary plans. If you have a student in the district, if you have a student that is even in 10th grade and you're wondering what you could be doing to support them, just reach out. Reach out to their school counselor, set up a meeting. We're happy to sit down and talk to you and your student and answer any questions that you have. That is it. Questions?
Thank you, Ms. Turk. Questions? Trustee Raimondo?
I just want to thank you so much for the time that you took to do a deep dive into this. I think it's important to shine a light on all that you do in that office. And I apologize for using incorrect terminology. It will never happen again. I called it guidance.
It's okay. I sometimes still slip because it's
okay. Well, now I know.
It's hard.
Now
I'm
I know.
working on getting the door changed. Like, we're really pushing into the 21st century now.
I love it. I love it. And the only thing I wanted to mention for policy committee, so I know that you don't write policy, but our policy is very outdated. So my hope is with this information that we could also take a look at that in policy committee so that we can support what you're doing in your space for our students. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. You're very welcome.
Trustee Goodrich?
Yeah, I also want to thank you for this. This is a great report. The question, the concerns that I had was, the school board recently is talking about our school goals and a dashboard, and every school board can say, well, one of the goals should be to improve graduation rates. But my concern is what happens to the student after they leave the school, and how can we collect data on that and see how successful they're doing and what can we do better in that area. I mean, this is unbelievable what you do here, and I was shocked, right? And but if you can think of some school goals, what we can do better, I'd appreciate that. And Bob Curran, who used to be our BOCES representative, mentioned to me that our Ulster County Community College, I guess the dropout rate for the first year is pretty high. And I asked, how's Aniora doing? And he says, it's really all the schools. And I'm not sure what can be done to maybe improve that. Maybe it could be anything, whether it's a home environment issue, whether it could be their car doesn't run anymore, so they can't get to school. But it would be nice to be able to maybe get some data on how that can be more successful. If you have any ideas, let us know.
I would say when we work with students and we have them set up their first meeting at Ulster, we hand them off to the admissions counselor, who then hands them off to the student services counselors, because there's no school counselors in college. I'll grab kids in the hallway, we push into classrooms, we send them emails like, come meet with me, we call them out of class. There's no one doing that at the college level. The student has to advocate for themselves and seek out that support. So I think at the very least we could make it more clear to our students who are going off to college, you have to access the student services office before you need them. And that goes for all kids, whether it's community college or a four-year college. You have to tap into that soon, because when it does get difficult and you do need counseling, let's say you have anxiety and you're now at a really competitive four-year college and you've had your first test and you didn't do as well as you had in high school because it's college now, you don't want to reach out to the counseling office at college, the student services office, and try to get an appointment, because you're going to get locked out. They've already been booked up by everyone else who's in the same boat. So I think that's somewhere we can advise students who are college bound. But you asked what we could do as far as a goal, and something that we do is we advocate for students, and it's really easy to advocate for students who have like a 93 GPA and they're good workers and they have a fantastic work ethic and they've got goals and they know what they want to do and where they're going to go. I worry most about the kids who don't have family support, don't know what they're going to do, and there's very few who are not interested in BOCES, but they're not interested in college as well. And because we're so small, I'm talking about a very small population, maybe like 3 or 4 kids. I wish there was something specific for them. I'm looking forward to seeing how the community mentorship might service more students. It used to be limited and focused on gifted and talented. I think there's a niche there for some of our students who are not quite identified as gifted and talented, but could still benefit from a community mentorship and get that hands-on experience and the community connection, so that when they do graduate, maybe there's a job there, maybe there's a phone call that their mentor can make to get them a job somewhere else. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, but that might be something that you guys can support. Anything else?
Thank you.
Other questions? Trustee Lynch? I think you might be muted.
You're on mute, Sarah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate the time you put into this presentation. My question is about the level of interaction with guardians, parents, and caregivers. At what point in a student's career do you start to meet with those families? Is it right at the 6th grade level, or does it actually progress as they get through high school?
We have an open door, so any parent who wants to come in and meet with us has a question, they're welcome to come in. Typically, parents will come in if their kid is failing, not doing well, or they'll come in if there's a mental health concern or a concern that there might be a learning disability. We've had parents come in for that. As far as gathering information and partnership with the parents, it's been incredibly difficult in my 17 years to get the parents that we want to partner with to come to evening presentations, come to parent-teacher conferences. Yes, the kids who have a 98 GPA, their parents are first in line anytime we had a parent evening presentation. We have struggled with how to make it more accessible. Is it a transportation issue? Should we do it remote? Do we offer daycare? Do we offer food? It never really made a difference. So unfortunately, that's my answer, non-answer.
Thank you.
Trustee Lynch, do you have other questions?
No, thank you, Cindy.
Okay. Any other questions? Trustee Jerome?
I'm just curious. I think you've made it clear that your interaction with students and parents generally takes place middle school, high school. What's for the shared counselor at the elementary school level? What are those interactions like?
She's doing K through 5 at Bennett and K through 4 at Woodstock, and she's working with the social worker and the psychologist at both of those buildings. She'll do push-in lessons. She does a career lesson with the kids. She'll pick up some discretionary counseling as needed, peer mediation. She's another resource for the kids.
Okay, just different, a little different than than that we. Okay, got it.
It's a little more specialized at the secondary level because we're coming up to the finish line.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Trustee Knutson?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm kind of in awe of your job description. It seems like it covers a real incredible breadth of areas that require a lot of detailed, specific knowledge about a lot of, from social emotional learning to curriculum planning to FAFSA, right? And so my question to you is, how does the counseling staff handle that? Do you divide up those responsibilities among you, or could you use more support, like a FAFSA expert coming in to cover that for you, or do you understand what I'm getting at?
I appreciate that. We get a little squirrely when it comes to helping parents fill out financial information because that's deeply personal and might be embarrassing for some parents. We're fortunate enough that at SUNY Ulster they'll do a financial aid workshop that's open to the entire community, even students that are going to four-year colleges. So we encourage kids who are struggling with the FAFSA, go see the professionals, and then you don't have to disclose to us how much or how little you have. The other one that is worse, if you have any parents, is the CSS profile through College Board. That one, they want to find every little penny that you have. And then you have to pay to have that reported to the colleges that you're asking for financial aid. That one's not a lot of fun.
Any other questions? Trustee Goodrich?
So before your presentation and looking at this data, I was thinking as a board goal, we should at least keep track of the advanced Regents diploma percentage, because looking anecdotally at the current numbers, our numbers were down compared to some of the other schools in Ulster County. So, but now looking at this, it kind of ebbs and flows from year to year, and I don't know if that would be a good goal to track and try to improve education.
So I'm going to defend the little guy at the bottom, the special education student who's never going to take geometry, may struggle with the concept of going to college, and would be really focused on getting a vocation and getting a job and probably making a lot more money than other students who do get a four-year degree. So the Advanced Regents Diploma, yes, it is a higher level of study. I don't think it's an actual reflection of district success. I worry about the kids who can't pass Algebra 1 and can't pass the Regents exam Algebra 1. And in my experience, that is the Regents exam where kids take it multiple times because mathematically they don't have the fluency, they don't have the abstract thinking, they struggle. And post-pandemic, foreign language and math, you need daily in-person practice. It's like, to make a sports analogy, it's like showing up to class once a week and be like, are you ready for the marathon? You didn't practice the 5K, you didn't work up to the 10K, you can't jump to the marathon. The marathon being Algebra 2 and the Advanced Regents Diploma. So I would be more interested in focusing on support for the students who are in Algebra 1A and 1B. It's the algebra curriculum, but it's spread out over 2 years. That's really where we see students struggle, and that's, in my experience, the biggest barrier to graduation, not Algebra 2.
Trustee Jerome?
I see both points. I think it's a bit subjective. Of course, we value all students. I think that's really the point, at the high end and the low end and then in between.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that we're all holding that. I'll defer talking about what data we want to track or what goals we want to set. I know that's an ongoing conversation, but I appreciate everybody who goes and is part of this district.
Assistant Superintendent Laffin?
Thank you, and thank you so much, Sarah. You and all of your team do an amazing job really personalizing things for our students and work so hard, so thank you for sharing this in detail. I just wanted to bring to the conversation about the Advanced Regents Diploma. I'm going to be doing a presentation at our next meeting. NYSED and the Board of Regents are looking at making significant changes in graduation requirements. So at this time, based on what we know, getting hung up on an Advanced Regents Diploma, that's probably a very temporary situation.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Excellent presentation. Thank you. Thank you. on to item 5.01, our superintendent's district news.
All right, so good evening, everybody. It's wonderful to be this far into school and to be kind of hitting a rhythm and seeing our kids every day. So much like Assistant Superintendent Laffin was mentioning, the Blue Ribbon Commission is still doing their work at the state level. So I wanted to let everybody know that Ulster BOCES will be hosting a community conversation about the future of New York State schools during a free event on Thursday, October 10th. This is the Blue Ribbon Commission Ambassador Program, spearheaded by State Ed, which will offer educators, parents, and community members the chance to come together to engage in meaningful dialogue about the vision for transforming New York's education system. So the event will be at Ulster BOCES in New Paltz from 5 to 7 p.m., again on October 10th. It is free and open to the public. Registration will be encouraged, so I've asked Holly Brooker from the communications department at Ulster BOCES if she would create some posts for us so that we can share the link to register. And the program will include an overview of the State Education Department's proposed vision for implementing the recommendations of the Blue Ribbon Commission on graduation measures, as well as opportunities to provide feedback on the 4 proposed transformations and to identify the opportunities and challenges related to the proposed transformations. And as Assistant Superintendent Laffin just noted, she's planning on bringing a report to the board in October to share some of the information on the work that was done by the Blue Ribbon Commission with regard to the new graduation measures. So I also wanted to share some information about the new regionalization initiative that has recently been released from the State Education Department. It was shared initially very briefly with the Ulster County superintendents at our summer retreat when we had representatives from State Ed come and speak with us. And the message that I received during that meeting was that the state was going to gather a lot of information, identify strengths and weaknesses and resources and where there might be lack of resources in different districts, and it would lead to conversation. But as the board members may note, in the On Board, which is the New York State School Board's publication article that was published yesterday, there's a lot more detail, and I think it's really important that we all know this information and that it's shared with the community. So I'm going to read some of the information that was in that article, and I want to give credit. It was written by Sarah Foss and Eric Randall. So as the article shared, school districts throughout the state will be required to discuss and later implement regionalization plans in a new process that will begin this fall and repeat every 10 years. Details of this large-scale effort were approved by the Board of Regents at its September meeting. The goal is to improve student opportunities and operational efficiencies by sharing resources. Regionalization is a strategic approach to addressing educational disparities, fiscal constraints, and operational inefficiencies across school districts in New York State, according to state education documents. It is different from consolidation. This model focuses on shared or pooled resources, such as utilizing shared staff, extracurricular programs, and support services to provide students with broader educational opportunities. It also encourages partnerships with regional businesses and other school districts to enhance curriculum and student experiences, which the state believes will help meet the demands of the new graduation measures. Later this fall, district superintendents from each of the district's 37 BOCES will convene discussions to begin the development of these regional plans. Participation will be mandatory for school districts that are components of a BOCES and voluntary for schools that are not part of a BOCES. So the regents set the following deadlines: November 1st and then every 10 years after. is the deadline for each school district that is a component of a BOCES to submit to SED an assessment of strengths and needs using a questionnaire that has been already developed by the State Education Department. November 1st is also the deadline for each BOCES district superintendent to hold the first meeting among component school districts. April 1st of 2025 and every 10 years thereafter is the deadline for each BOCES to deliver an interim progress report to the State Education Department. October 1st, 2025 and every 10 years after is the deadline for each BOCES to file a regionalization plan with the State Education Department. If the plan does not meet with State Education Department approval, it must be revised within 30 days. The 25-26 school year, and every 10 years after, is the deadline for implementation of each of the 37 regionalization plans. The regionalization plan was adopted as an emergency rule and went into effect immediately by the Board of Regents. State Education Department officials have said that school districts will not be able to opt out of the discussions, nor any local actions required by the plans as developed by their BOCES district superintendent. Because regionalization plans will be developed with input from each component district, and because they are subject to continual review and renewal, State Education Department anticipates that they will have broad and strong community support. By leveraging stakeholder and community engagement early in the process, the department does not believe that an opt-out provision is necessary. Anyone who wants additional information can go to the New York State Education Department website, and there is an entire page for this regionalization initiative. On a happier note, this weekend is our homecoming. Please know there are so many special events planned for Friday and Saturday. On Friday, there will be a student tailgate in the afternoon, and there will be field hockey, girls tennis, JV volleyball, and girls soccer games at 4:15. Boys golf is playing at 3, and varsity volleyball at 5:45. Saturday is going to kick off with our cross-country runners competing at 9:30, boys soccer at 10, and then at noon there will be our parade of athletes with youth sports recognition and the senior athlete recognition. At 2 o'clock will be the football game with the halftime homecoming court announcement. So I hope to see everyone there celebrating our students. And I need to absolutely thank the Booster Club for all of the hard work and support that they provide for our students, and all of the activities that they contribute to and help organize, as well as for this particular event, Jonna O'Donnell and Leah Smith in the athletic department. Homecoming is a massive undertaking. It provides a wonderful opportunity for our students to shine and for our community to come and engage with the district. So I hope to see everyone there, and I want to thank, there are a lot of people who contribute to this. I can't possibly thank them all individually, but thank you to everyone who contributes.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent McLaren. Does anyone have questions for Superintendent? Trustee Jerome?
I am curious about maybe some examples of regionalization. Is that like blending sports teams? Is that like, is it regions like several school districts together figuring out how to, or do we not know yet, or is that all TBD?
That, to my knowledge, is entirely TBD.
Okay.
But I wanted to share that level of detail because I think this is a huge statewide initiative, and I think it's tied very closely to the Blue Ribbon Commission. I think this commissioner, the Board of Regents, and the State Education Department are really trying to overhaul things.
Yeah. Oops, sorry.
But I don't think it can be minimized. We need to really
absolutely, and I'm just starting to like think about what are real life applications so that we can all understand what regionalization means. And maybe they don't know yet, but we can be part of that conversation.
I think we all have those same questions. I don't know if someone at the state has a real vision of what it's going to look like when we're done. I'm wondering how consistent it will be across the state, since each region is going to be governed by their local BOCES. So I don't know if what our BOCES puts together as a plan as compared to what someone in Buffalo or someone on Long Island puts together as a plan. I don't know how much oversight there's going to be in terms of making them look similar and having similar
Interesting.
programs
Okay, yeah.
across the state.
Yeah, tons of questions. Okay, yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
a lot of questions.
I appreciate it. You bringing it up and starting to talk about this. And the Blue Ribbon Commission, definitely going to stay on top of that too. Yeah.
Trustee Knutson?
Just when is the questionnaire that you're filling out for with all the information, when is that due? And when it's filled out, is that something the board could see, the completed version?
It is due November 1st. So yeah, I mean, we can absolutely share it with the board. As you know, in my update, I shared the blank one, which is rather daunting. When I printed it out, I started to flip through, and as I kept flipping, I was like, oh, okay, they want to know everything.
Right. But it just might help us to see what they're seeing, if we're going to be involved in the conversation. Right?
Definitely.
Trustee Raimondo?
I just wanted to give an example. When we were in rural schools, they gave examples of regionalization. So one I'll just use is, let's say we have a program or a course that we want to offer, but we don't have a teacher for that, but maybe Kingston does. So somehow we partner with them to maybe do remote learning for our students who want to take it. So it's a shared resource look, and I don't think it's going to be the same from region to region at all, based on needs. But that's one example that might be helpful.
Trustee Lynch, do you have any questions?
No, thank you. I was just going to remind folks that, just as Trustee Raimondo did, that we did have a pretty lengthy presentation at rural schools about this, and I wrote down contact information of the two presenters from SED, and they also shared information of a new colleague that would be available, superintendent, for questions, knowing that this was going to be rolling out in the fall. So I could dig that up if it's useful to you. But I just wanted to ask if there was also any acknowledgement of there was I believe it was 7 characteristics of a student that they were also hoping to unveil at this time. Was that part of this rollout or no? It was another initiative that was tied to the regionalization. It was involved at looking.
Assistant Superintendent Laffin will include that in her presentation in October.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on. Board district news. Any board district news to report? Trustee Raimondo?
I'd just like to report from the middle school and high school back to school night that it was wonderful. The energy was amazing. Everyone had smiles on their faces. Teachers were engaging and also relieved about the cell phone policy, and just such gratitude that it's happening for them and how much they're seeing in interactions between the children, and that the lunchroom is loud but in a great way. And I'm so happy to see it, and it happened pretty quickly. So it's great, and I had a wonderful evening as usual.
Any other news? Yes, Trustee Mitchell-Morell?
We had open house at Woodstock Elementary, and there was also a back-to-school picnic, which was nice because our end-of-year picnic was rained out a few times in the spring. And there was a Greek food truck, and there was music, and I met a lot of new families. I actually met families who had switched from Middle Way, from Woodstock Day School, from Mountaintop, so that was very exciting. And it was really fun. It was dark when I left, and there were still so many people there. It was really fun.
That's good news. Any other? Oh, Trustee Jerome?
Just because we see what we see, but I live near there, and yes, it was like crawl. I mean, it usually is crawling with kids, but that particular day, it was really packed. Yeah.
Anything else for board district news? Trustee Goodrich.
So on September 19th, we had another facilities committee meeting, and
Trustee Goodrich, would you just hold off on that until
Sure.
we do the committee reports?
okay.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. No, we have the committee reports near the end. Thank you, though. All right. That's okay. All right, moving on. We have our student rep. So I was so excited to meet and introduce Olivia McHugh, who will give us the student report.
Hello, sorry, this is my first time using the microphone, so bear with me. So far, we have begun celebrating Homecoming Week by dressing up. Monday was Dress a Celebrity, Tuesday was Dress as Your Class, Wednesday will be Wacky Wednesday, Thursday is Century Day, and Friday is Jersey Day. Recent initiatives include painting Foursquare courts behind the gym, and students have expressed interest in painting a mural above the gym entrance saying "Welcome to the Nest." Students and teachers continue to adapt to the new electronic hallway policy. Additionally, the new phone policy has been strictly enforced in the high school. Teachers have seen improvements in socialization, communication, and just overall happiness, student happiness. There are also more students participating in Foursquare during lunch and more students outside during lunchtime as well.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Olivia? Trustee Jerome?
Not a question, but I love Welcome to the Nest.
I do too. Oh my gosh, I love it.
I sadly cannot take credit for creating that saying.
Olivia, have you observed yourself any problems with the cell phone procedure, or is it all good news?
I am exclusively on a completely different side of the school than many other students. Personally, in my own experience, I have not come in contact with any problems with the new phone policy, but I'm also just speaking on my own view of inside of things of Ontiora.
Great, thank you so much. Any other questions for Olivia? And Olivia, we don't expect you to stay for the whole board meeting ever. I mean, that's like, if you find it like so interesting that you can't pry yourself away, you may stay the whole time, but you don't have to. You feel free to leave any time. We appreciate your coming. We did not have any speakers last week. Do we have any speakers this week for Public Be Heard? Okay. Anybody? All right. Taking it easy on us. All right. Item 10.01, continued discussion of the creation of our 24-25 district goals. And I see that on the agenda we also have continued discussion on creating a board dashboard. So first we'll do, yeah, I don't know, I misread that, thinking that it was board goals, but it's a board dashboard. So we'll start with 10.01, continued discussion of creating board district goals. And Trustee Raimondo did reach out to NYSBA just to get some clarification after our discussion at the last board meeting about the difference between board goals and district goals.
Yes, if we're all members on NYSBA, so you can reach out anytime to them. It's just an email questionnaire, and then a person calls you back, which is wonderful. So I just asked for clarification for myself, and I figured it might be helpful to everyone. So the difference between a board goal and a district goal. Board goals, it's the same terminology as our board norms. So they just use the word goals, but for us it's our norms that we adopt in July. So it's how we conduct our meetings. It's how we behave with one another. It's how we become prepared. It's how we, do our research and do our due diligence around the agendas. So that's what board goals are. And then district goals are the 10,000 foot view goals of how we support our district's initiatives and what we're looking to achieve in the district. So I just wanted to tell you that because that's what I learned. So hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you. So who would like to start the conversation? Trustee Goodrich?
So, you know, some school goals that I've looked at from other school districts, they have the improved graduation rate, which obviously you can measure. So where does that fall?
Is that listed as a district goal?
It's listed as a goal. I'm not sure if it's labeled district or board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or maybe it's a superintendent goal. I don't know where all this falls. So
right. I mean, I don't know if Superintendent McLaren or Assistant Superintendent Laffin want to weigh in on that. To me, I mean, I think that improving outcomes for all students would fall under the umbrella of a district goal, but I feel like improving graduation rate might be a curriculum and instruction goal, perhaps, or a high school goal. I don't know.
I would just offer that also in a district our size, if you have a cohort, a graduating class of 85, one student can really shift your graduation percentage. I think it's really hard for us to set specific targets on graduation rates because, as Ms. Turk said, every one of our students is very unique and they really tailor the work they do in the school counseling department to support whatever their goals are. But truly, if we have one or two students in a particular cohort, it can swing the graduation rate fairly dramatically. And as our class sizes decrease, and you know, we have some that are below 70.
So let me just add to that. So yeah, as I'm looking, so my background is performance improvements, right? So it's the old saying, if you don't have the data, it's just an opinion, right? And a lot of times, you know, my background, I could say I'd be really proud of the fact I improved performance by 4%. I predicted I was going to improve it 4%, and I actually pulled it off. But then in my lunchroom group that I have lunch with every day, they look at me and they smile and they say to me, "You got lucky." And they're absolutely right. Because sometimes I think I'm going to improve at 4%, and it actually gets worse when I measure it. And that happens more than I'd like, but that's the reality of a big system, like a computer system or a school district or whatever big system you're working on. And when you're absolutely right when I can appreciate the small numbers you have here, and looking at the data that the guidance was showing. If it's off by 1 or 2, what have you proved? Nothing.
I think the other thing that I think I attended a conference probably 20 years ago when I first came into education, and the keynote speaker shared how if you compare a school district to, say, manufacturing, and in manufacturing you have goals for production and quality control, and you can source the right widgets from a particular provider and they can be built to specs, and you have known basis and known foundation for the ultimate product that you're providing. We take all children, and each cohort has different strengths and weaknesses, and the pandemic will have affected children in very different ways. And so I just feel like for us, being as small as we are and accepting all students, I think we have to be very deliberate if you want to set percentage of academic improvement goals.
So I looked at, just to go to dashboards, which is kind of related here, and we're going to talk about that. I looked at some dashboards out there. So you have large counties in California that involve 20,000, 30,000 students. And they've got dashboard data like you wouldn't believe. And that makes sense for 30,000 students. But when you're talking about our future, which is like 800, I don't know if that's going to help us try to improve things.
Trustee Jerome?
Yes, I think Superintendent McLaren, we don't have the numbers for that to really, I think, be part of these goals. I actually am of the mind, I did try to wordsmith something, and it comes from a very different point of view. Shall I just read it? Okay. And this is for the district goals. Provide equitable access to student-centered programs that prioritize the arts, sciences, and a human-first approach to education, supporting the district's mission to cultivate productive 21st century global citizens and leaders, because that's what we're helping create here at Ontura. So I had spoken at the last meeting how I wanted to really bring the arts and sciences and our human first. I think before we had modern, and I look at the 21st century, which I kept. I think that's redundancy there. I think that in terms of encouraging always improving graduation rates, to me that's a given. I guess in this, which I will share with you, Amanda, I really am trying to capture, I think last time we were jokingly calling it the secret sauce of Diora, but what is it about our district which is so special? Listening to you talking about the community and people socializing, and we're a small district, and we do have this incredible community and talent in the arts. So anyways, that's mine, and I'll forward it and welcome it to be open to comment.
Great, thank you. And I hope anybody who reads a draft proposal for goals tonight will email that to Amanda, and then she can develop a Google Doc that we can use as a working document from there. Trustee Knutson?
Okay, I'm going to ask for forgiveness in advance of being a little bit fuzzy, because I'm thinking more, I tried to think about this more conceptually, and I'm coming in very much as a newcomer, fresh eyes, 50,000 feet, so I may, say something that, I don't know. Anyway, so I'm just going to say it. So the theme that I've seen that I think would be a worthy goal for this district to pursue this year, that keeps popping out to me, is the word engagement or re-engagement. And I'm going to say this because the cell phone discussion really heartens me. I'm going to recommend a book in New Business at the end of the meeting tonight that I read recently that really informed my thinking on this. But, I think we've all gone through this national trauma of this pandemic, and the result of that in our society is a real kind of siloing of a lot of our human interactions. And I'm touching on your human first theme here, Trustee Jerome. Sorry. We had the group at the last meeting who's doing mental health presentations that told us that nobody's showing up, or maybe 2 people are showing up. And if nobody shows up, we'll record the meeting so they can watch it at home alone. So much that's important in education depends on us being together in a room face to face. So I think, also going back to the last couple of school board elections, we heard a lot from the community that they don't feel engaged with the board. So I think there's a lot of parties that could set engagement goals for themselves in this district, or re-engagement goals to improve engagement with the community, students with each other, with parents and caregivers. As we heard tonight, is a difficult, absenteeism has been a problem nationwide since the pandemic, right? So to get students to re-engage with coming to school. I just think it's what we are going through as a society is trying to come back together after having technology and the pandemic kind of intersecting to get us on screens and apart and not together enough. And I don't know how to craft that I haven't thought about the words that, but I think whatever your goals are for this district, I think it will be served by increased engagement of some form. And I feel that strongly. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much. Will you try to craft something? It doesn't, we're not looking for perfection. We're just looking to get some words on paper or words on technology, and then, so that we can all see it and think about it more and come back together and try to get a goal at our next meeting.
Sure.
Or more than one.
Because I do agree that goals are better when you can measure in some fashion whether you have succeeded or failed at the end of the year, right? And when I look at last year's board goal, it's more of a value statement, but it's not something you can wake up in the morning and say, okay, I'm going to further this goal. It's you can do things that you think further that goal, but it's a very broad idea.
Thank you. Trustee Mitchell-Morrell?
Not exactly sure either. We're kind of just like saying stuff here, but I know our size is in so many ways like our biggest challenge, but it's also, I think, our greatest asset and how everyone knows each other. And Ms. Turk just saying how by 12th grade, she really knows a student. I mean, that's so cool and probably doesn't happen at a lot of schools. And actually, when I went to graduation and our previous student, Sophia, referenced this personal joke from seventh grade or something, and everyone was like, yeah, I remember that. I was it really seems like such a tight-knit group, and sort of harnessing and embracing the smallness to kind of do what you're saying, which is re-engage, to kind of use our smallness to create a more tight-knit community.
Thank you. And if you'd like to craft something, please do, and we'll get it in the Google Doc. Trustee Raimondo?
Okay, so bear with me because I wrote a lot about different areas that we've talked about. So I'll just go through them and then I'll send them along. So the first one is the board is committed to creating and supporting an environment and culture that advocates for all students. The board is dedicated to supporting all initiatives that foster whole student well-being and a love for learning by meeting each child where they are at and offering diverse courses, electives, and extracurricular activities that inspire them while meeting state and federal guidelines. So that's one. And this, I didn't know how to incorporate it into the top one, but it would be the metrics. So the board will partner with the superintendent to develop a schedule of reporting across grade levels and subject areas, including guidance to increase its knowledge of the district's current metrics. The board will support, through its understanding, goals set for our students and addressing what actions must be taken to reach goals around student achievement. This one's about the long-term communication plan. The board will support the long-term communication plan, which will enable the district to make key improvements to our communication efforts in the short term, while allowing the district to structure a multi-year approach to implementing identified tactics to support the strategies presented in the plan. And the last one I wrote is the board will continue its fiduciary duty to ensure the longevity of the Onteora Central School District. We are committed to being proactive around the action steps to move the district towards unifying all students at a centralized campus that is well-planned, future-focused, fiscally sound, and an optimal learning environment for every learner in our district.
Thank you. Trustee Lynch?
Apologies.
It's okay.
A little bit loud. Yeah, so I get, maybe I should just send it in writing for everyone to respond, but actually it's very well timed in that I was picking up on exactly what Trustee Knudsen was suggesting, and I was making it, I hope, actionable by referencing what Trustee Raimondo said regarding the communication strategy. So thinking about an engagement plan that is measured by the tactics that we are able to employ through the strategy. Because at the end of the day, the communication strategy is about engagement, and it is about reaching different audiences that are vital stakeholders of a healthy school district. And so I think I can potentially just build on those two ideas. I also think it's important that we look back at the goals from last year, and I would love to just really have an honest or transparent conversation about expectations around a long-term plan. I think part of the challenge for me personally has been that a long-term plan is an actual document to me, in terms of a strategy and a vision and a mission, all things that, we've already written on paper, but then there's something separate that is a long-term strategic plan, and we still don't have something on paper. And I think for me, I'd love to think about the wording that we can all agree on that gets us to the same outcome. And the outcome needs to be important to all of us, not just to me, certainly, but I just mean in terms of what is it that's going to be a shared understanding of our long-term plan, both from a facilities perspective, but more importantly, I think it's about the goals for our focus on excellence and our focus on shared resources and the fiduciary responsibility that we all hold for the district. So I'd love to just think about that with you and also open it up for conversation, because I think we've had that plan in our goal for the last 2 years, and I just haven't seen it on paper yet. And I'd love to better understand how we can articulate it in a way that really helps us, get there.
So when you submit something in writing to Amanda, could you make sure that you just mention that long-term plan in writing so that we don't forget that that's something that you have in mind?
Absolutely. But again, I just want to make it clear that it's, I'm open to other words. It
Right.
doesn't need to be a plan. I'm trying to figure out collectively what would be helpful. Yeah, most importantly, because the implementation of it is what's most important, right? But is it, how do we get something so we all know what we're talking about.
Right. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I took a stab at it too. And I wrote a goal, and I did some research also, like Trustee Goodrich, and I looked at goals, district goals of some of the most highly effective, highest achieving schools in New York State. And I was kind of really shocked at some of the goals are like maybe 3 separate goals that are 2 sentences each or so. And some of the goals are like 4 goals that are 2 pages each. And it's kind of amazing at how that works. So I decided, and a lot of them had board actions specified. So I wrote a goal. I'm not crazy about it. I don't like the wording of it, but I will submit it as I'll read it and submit it as I wrote it, and then I'll probably work on it once it's in the doc. So the goal is the Onteora Board of Education commits to optimizing social, emotional, and academic opportunities in an engaging and supportive learning environment for all students while planning a future campus that reduces overconsumption of fossil fuels and the use of underutilized and out-of-date spaces, communicating clearly and planning and collaborating openly with our students, families, staff, and community partners. And I have 3 actions. Action number 1, the Board of Education will support the district's development of a diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging policy and a district-wide DEI&B team that includes students, parents, teachers, administrators, and community partners. The board will develop and adopt the policy and welcome monthly updates from the superintendent or her designee on the DEI&B team's planning and implementation. Number 2, the Board of Education will support and participate in the visioning and planning process with our community consultant, engineers, architects, financial advisors, community partners, and administration to the degree appropriate as we continue to develop and implement our long-term plan. And number 3, the Ontario Board of Education will support the implementation of a long-term communication plan with the support of our BOCES consultant and administration to clearly communicate with the growing number of engaged community partners. The board and administration will communicate priorities, progress, and potential concerns in detail on a monthly basis through presentations at our public meetings, monthly board briefs, and quarterly district newsletters. Sort of a brief goal. Sort of a brief goal that it's a huge run-on sentence. And then the action plans are more specific and more measurable. And then if that were a potential way that we wanted to go, then under those actions, the superintendent could add her actions. Questions, comments, more ideas? Trustee Goodrich.
I like what you said. Actually, I liked all the comments here today. And listening to last board meeting, there's great discussions by everybody, so it's interesting. And there, of course, there's a lot of overlap between what you had and which is great.
We did not work together.
Right, but that's great, though, so. But, yeah, I think that's great.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, so we'll all submit as soon as possible to Amanda. And then I would really like for us to dedicate a chunk of time at our next meeting. We'll try to manage the agenda so that it's not overwhelming, so that we really have like 45 minutes or so that we really can dedicate time to crafting a goal. And these goal development conversations can get really long and really wordsmithing, down to the letter, and that's exactly how it should be. So we just have to take the time that we need to put something together that's the right thing and the meaningful thing. Everybody okay with that? Trustee Knudsen?
There was talk of these being on a shared Google document at some point. Is that how we will approach this? Yeah, okay, thank you.
As I recall last year, and I think the year before as well, we had a Google Doc. Everybody submitted their ideas to the Google Doc. And then like below those 7, submissions, people started like combining goals, subtracting idea, it just kind of became it was a further development and more ideas. And then we came to the table with lots of ideas and narrowed it down. Any further comments or questions or advice, insights? Okay, awesome. Thanks, everybody. on to 10.02, the continued discussion of creating a board dashboard. Trustee Raimondo?
I figured we'd start with asking Amanda if there were any updates from the demo requests to board docs or the people who make board docs.
Yes. So I had a Teams meet today with Diligent, who creates board docs. They have created this wonderful new platform called Diligent Community, which will take the place of board docs, and they're hoping to sunset board docs in 5 to 10 years. So he really did a deep dive into the community platform, which is awesome. I have to say, I'm very excited about it. I did ask him to send me a demo, which he said he would send later tonight or tomorrow, which will forward as soon as I get that for everyone to go over. But you log in and there's this dashboard where you can see the calendar with all of the committee meetings, same with the board meetings. And then we can kind of customize it to how we want. The board goals would be there. You can see your progress. All of the trustees are listed when the terms are ended. Superintendent updates would be put in there. RFIs, whatever we want, we can create it. And you can also log in personally, and you can make notes on the agenda so you don't forget what you want to discuss at the meeting. And the notes are strictly to you only, and no one else can see them unless you choose to share them. Board minutes would be there. It would just streamline our processes with board docs, and it brings us to a more modern dashboard, really, which is great. So that's what I have so far. So as soon as I get the demo, I will happily share it along.
And you said it's called Diligent Community?
Yes.
Is that a product that's available now?
Yep, so they did a soft launch. If we were to choose to implement the product now, we would be one of the first school districts to do so.
Trustee Knudsen?
Did he say if we were to adopt it, could we migrate our current board doc setup seamlessly? Like, would there be a transition difficulties in moving board docs onto community?
So I had that conversation too, and they would work with me to move everything over and kind of categorize it and make it neat. Same with our policies. I would have to take our policy manual, put it in a Word document, and then I would send it to them. They would upload everything and then show me how to customize it for us in case it didn't read over nicely. So yep, everything that we have would go.
Amanda, did you discuss cost?
I did. So we currently pay $2,700 for the light version. If we were to go with the community, it would be $8,000 per year.
I'm sorry, Trustee Jerome?
I'm curious, we haven't discussed what metrics we might want to track aside from just organizing it in a central location, but say we wanted to track test scores, or, we used to get updates. I'm not sure, we've been missing them the past couple of months of enrollment numbers and things like that. Can those be built out for that dashboard so we can have sort of at a glance, what's happening within our district with, things like that?
So from my understanding, yes. The enrollment updates I haven't got yet since it's September. Obviously, we didn't get anything over the summer. Those would be able to be put in there as well. I don't know exactly if you can see the trends. That I'm not sure, but I'm happy to ask. If you do review the demo and you have any questions, please send them to me so I can reach out to the guy who did the Teams meet with me, and he said he would be my point of contact.
Trustee Knudsen?
Sorry, one more. It's called Community, so is it more designed to be community facing, more so than board docs?
Yeah, and what's great too that I didn't mention is that public can sign up right on the dashboard for Public Be Heard. They can also subscribe to receive the agenda. When I make it live, it would automatically go. There's no cap, so there can be 3,000 people on that, and it would just go right to their inbox, and they can manage their account from there. If they want to update their email address, or they're like, I don't want to get this anymore. So it is more community driven in that aspect. Yes.
So I guess in that sense, the things that I was talking about would not be community facing.
No.
Yeah.
Nope. You would have to log in to see all of that. Same with the superintendent updates. There's a community dashboard that would be able to be viewed. Same kind of like our board, our board docs. And then if you log in, then you can see
Then you
everything
get the
that
full-
like the
okay.
executive content. Yep.
Thank you.
Trustee Lynch? Nothing? Okay. Any other, so, I mean, I think this is a time to kind of have a conversation about what we would wish for on a dashboard, you know, as a small district. Trustee Mitchell-Morrell?
Can we go over like the original reason we were talking about this or wanted it? I just think I've missed that somehow.
Trustee Lynch?
Yeah, thank you. I was just going to say, I think, in response to your question, I think it is actually probably a conversation we should take up after we take up our goals, because the original intent was about providing the board with a sort of a management dashboard that allows us to be sort of current in our thinking about the goals that are in front of us. So if there are specific things that need to be more, smart goals, measurable goals, things that we need to be thinking about, any data that we want to include in that would be relevant here. Also, I think there's, projecting forward here, but I think there's going to be, a lot for us to think about during the budget season. And so I'd love to just get into a rhythm of where we're just a lot more knowledgeable and have a bit more understanding of some of the data-driven decision making that will be really vital to us in the spring. So that's the part of the reason I brought it up as an RFI last summer, was to ask about, do we have data teams? What kind of data is easily available? Because certainly we don't want this to be onerous. I want to make that clear again. But, how could we be helping to bring some of this data that is, so vital to our understanding and our knowledge about the districts, that we can, one, make data-driven decisions, but secondly, be thoughtful about how we're holding ourselves accountable for the goals that we set for ourselves.
Thank you. I agree that it would be a good idea to wait until we have our goals set, so that we know exactly what it is that we're trying to measure. Trustee Jerome?
I was just going to touch on that piece of, having more access to the data that's driving decisions within our district. Just also adds to transparency and communication between administration and board, so we understand you. I think that's also a real benefit of something like this.
Trustee Goodrich?
So another reason for the dashboard is what Trustee Jerome just mentioned. I mean, it could be more of a communications for to the public. Socrates has on their website a fast facts, F-A-C-T-S. It's a single page. It's got a whole bunch of initial data that somebody that's looking at the school district for the first time could look at, just to give them a really quick overview with a lot of data there. But whether we want 1, 2, or 3 pages, something like the optimization page, it's just a way to communicate with the public as well. And you know, it's data we already have. We have the reports page. It's just a matter of putting it together and making it easier to find. So that's another reason for doing the dashboard.
Trustee Raimondo?
I wonder if the information, I haven't seen Saugerty's page, but if it's similar to like their SED school report card, because there's a lot of information on that. So maybe it's transcribed from there. So maybe that's something that could be more present or more, I don't know, I know it's accessible. I know we have it, but maybe that's something that's presented because it really does a nice overview, and then you can dive deep into each section. So maybe if we help bring education around just people going to the New York State Department of Education website and seeing our report card, that would be helpful to them. I don't know.
So funny you mentioned that, because right at the bottom of Saugerty's Fast Facts is a link to their SED data.
Trustee Knutson?
Just a quick question for Amanda. The demo you referenced, is that like a recorded demo that anybody could watch? I'm just thinking that if we'd have access to look at the demo, it might spark an idea in any one of us that we see, oh, there's something I want to know or something I want to communicate that could really work or wouldn't work on that, what that specifically offers. Is that something we can see, or is it something you have to do?
Yeah, so he said that he would send me the demo via email, and once I receive that, then I will forward it on to you. The Teams meet that I had today, it was him and I interacting on his page, so he'll give me something that makes more sense for everyone to view probably tomorrow. So I'll share that as soon as I get it.
Trustee Jerome?
And just really quickly, lastly, that going back to our district goals, you know, engagement, re-engagement, this could be a wonderful tool for getting, you know, more information, more engagement with the community and between us and the administration. It works nicely with that thought.
Trustee Goodrich?
So just to add, last meeting on Trustee Mitchell Merrill's comment of we can brag about what we're good at, right? And there's a little bit of that in the Saugerty's Fast Facts, right? So that's a place to brag about, you know, why we're good.
Great. Okay. To be continued. The next item is a break. Shall we take 5 minutes? No? Okay, we'll keep going. Item number 12.01 to approve the consent agenda. The board hereby approves items number 12.02 through 12.06. May I have a first? Trustee Raimondo, second. Trustee Goodrich, any questions or comments? Trustee Lynch?
Thank you, Trustee Bishop. I reviewed Schedule U and everything seems to be in order.
Thank you. We will vote. Trustee Knutson?
Aye.
Trustee Jerome?
Aye.
Trustee Mitchell-Morrell? Trustee Goodrich?
Aye.
Trustee Raimondo?
Aye.
That's, and Trustee, oh yeah, I'm sorry, Trustee Lynch?
Aye.
Okay, great. Oh, sorry, let me just catch up. Item 13.01 is approve contracts and independent contract retainers. The Board of Education hereby approves items number 13.02 through 13.03. May I have a first? Trustee Jerome, second. Trustee Raimondo, any questions or comments? Trustee Goodrich?
So on the 1302, that's Woodstock specific. I'm just curious, are we supposed to provide the same services for both elementary buildings? How does that work?
Superintendent?
They often do. They just don't often always end up on the same agenda.
But typically, Mr. Savacci would be working in both elementary schools at, with students at both, like grade levels and, yeah. Trustee Jerome?
Yes, my daughter was at both schools and he was present at both schools, so.
Yes. All right, shall we vote? Trustee Mitchell-Morrell, were you approving the consent agenda? Yes, okay, good, thank you. Thank you. We had a first and second on approving the contracts. So we will vote. Trustee Knutson?
Aye.
Trustee Jerome?
Aye.
Trustee Mitchell-Morrell?
Aye.
Trustee Goodrich?
Aye.
Trustee Lynch?
Aye.
Trustee Raimondo?
Aye.
Okay, great. That's unanimous. And on to policies. 14.01 is the first reading of policy 4212, the organizational chart. 1402 is the first reading of policy 6112, the rights of employees to express breast milk in the workplace. 14.03, first reading of policy 1711.1, public report on revisions to district policies, practices, and procedures upon a finding of significant disproportionality. 14.04, first reading of policy 7611.2, special education personnel. 14.05, first reading of policy 7611.3, programs and services for parentally placed non-public school students with disabilities. 14.06, first reading of policy 7614, preschool special education. 14.07, first reading of policy 7617, declassification of students with disability. And 14.08, policy 7670, impartial hearing officer appointment and compensation has been reviewed and is okay as is. So those first 7 policies, yikes. Please review them. If you have any questions or concerns about them, we can raise those at the next meeting. It's typically our practice to read the policy on your own, and then the next time we get together will be our second reading. It's considered a second reading, and that's when we typically approve the policies. Question?
Yeah, just a point of confusion. So on some of them, there's one file that says this is the current policy, and then another file that says this is the new policy, and they're both dated 2009 or something like that. Or at the bottom, or is the second one referring back to the first one? I was confused by that. A lot of them are pretty similar, but then they're both dated. One might be dated June of 2009, and the next one's like December 2009 or something. So I'm sorry. I can send it to you afterwards.
Typically, the new policies or the policies that we're looking to approve in the board meeting are policies that are current, like so that they would be dated, I guess. Amanda, you can clarify, but they would typically be dated the date that we approve them. Oh, and maybe the dates haven't been updated because we haven't approved them yet. Yeah, okay, but we can double check. Any other questions on those policies? All right, so since we have the policy 7670, impartial hearing officer appointment and compensation, which was reviewed and is okay as it is, we'd like to the Board of Education would hereby like to accept Policy 7670, impartial hearing officer's appointment and compensation as reviewed. May I have a first? Trustee Jerome, second. Trustee Knutson, any questions about that? All right, Trustee Knutson?
Aye.
Trustee Jerome?
Aye.
Trustee Mitchell-Morrell?
Aye.
Trustee Goodrich?
Aye.
Trustee Lynch?
Aye.
And Trustee Raimondo?
Aye.
I almost called you Trustee Sarah.
That's fine.
Okay, excellent.
I've used first names too many times tonight.
All right, on to committee reports. I don't know that we need an audit committee report unless somebody has prepared one. Did you prepare one? No, okay.
You pretty much heard what he said.
Exactly.
And in the meeting, he also praised the business office effusively, so I'll just echo that again. Congratulations to the business office.
Thank you. He does a great job, and so does the business office. Communications committee. Who would like to speak?
I can start.
Okay.
Thank you, Trustee Bishop, for forwarding around the draft of the communications committee's communication plan. This was prepared by our colleagues at BOCES, and we hope you've had a minute to review it. The thought was that this would guide both the prioritization of resources that would be required for us to improve upon our two-way communication with all the stakeholders involved in our district, but also it would help us to respond, if you will, to the communication survey that went out over a year ago. So for us, we as a committee were able to make some preliminary edits, although I'll say on the whole, I thought the BOCES team did an excellent job and there were very few edits to be made. But we did reorganize some of the strategies that you see listed here. You'll see on beginning on page 6, they start to outline different strategies, strategy 1, 2, 3, they're numbered. And so part of what we wanted to share with you was how we would prioritize them and get your feedback on that. Because as I want to just reiterate that it does require resourcing. And while some of it is aidable, as they call it, there is cost to doing some of these things. So just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that and could give their input on this plan.
Thank you. Yeah, it was, I mean, I speak for myself. I was really excited when I saw the plan and read through it. I think it's very well done. I think it's improved by our tweaking of the priorities and the strategies to really prioritize them. So, kind of make them our own. And I do encourage all the trustees to really read through it carefully, offer any thoughts you have. It's still a draft, and we'd love to get it out as soon as we can. Trustee Knutson?
Just quick question. So what you sent around has already been edited by the communications committee? Okay, great. Thank you.
I don't think I have anything to add to what Trustee Lynch said. Yeah, I think I'm good. Facilities Committee, have you met since the last board meeting? Yes, Trustee Goodrich?
Yes.
Yeah, so we met on September 19th. A lot of it was going over what we had already talked about last time, because we do meet fairly recently. But I guess the bids for phase 3 for the classrooms that went out, I don't know if we got any bids back yet. So in October we'll get the bids back. And outside of that, there's just some minor stuff to talk about probably. The one area I guess is the the timeline for the Aniora optimizing Aniora capital project timeline. I guess we have a space utilization study coming up. Is that going to be reported soon, or?
Our goal is to have a report to the board in October. I am hoping that we would be receiving something preliminarily from the architects any day now, because we did meet with them, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and they said we should be receiving it within 2 weeks. So, yes.
All right. Stay tuned, I guess. Thank you.
Nothing from legislative action, I don't believe, at this time.
The only thing I just wanted to add, Trustee Bishop, to the Facilities Committee update.
Please do.
Thank you. Just going to say that one of our community members, as part of the committee, also volunteered to follow up with the full committee on a series of grants and opportunities that he wants us to be made aware of through NYSERDA as we think about the long-term onto optimization building plans. He's aware of multiple opportunities through the Clean Schools Act and wanted to make those visible to all of us. So I thought that was helpful. He himself is an architect, so he has depth of knowledge in this area.
Excellent, thank you. Trustee Knudsen?
Yes, and I listened into that meeting as well, and I just want to say that one of the points he made was that these NYSERDA grants are sort of limited in their total amount and will run out at some point. So it may behoove us not to think of it as necessarily only for the future capital projects, but ways that these things can be incorporated on an ongoing basis, because the timeline for the big capital project may be too long. They may be gone by the time it rolls around. So,
thank you. Good advice. Policy Committee, you know what we've been up to. Okay, sorry, and we apologize. Any old business to discuss? Any new business to discuss? Trustee Mitchell-Morrell?
I guess the heading of this is sort of recruitment. I was looking at that communications document and was thinking about how there's no tab on the, what do you call it, like the main navigation bar for new and prospective families. I think, you know, well, I mean, okay. Well, first of all, I want to say I think closing Woodstock is going to have the unintended effect of driving enrollment down further. Just knowing the culture around there, people would rather send their kids to private school, because private school isn't like in New York where it's $40,000. It can be somewhat affordable, $10,000 or less, and rather than put their kid on a bus to like a place they don't know as well, they'd rather just keep them close. So I'm worried about that happening, especially with younger kids, just it negatively affecting enrollment. And with that in mind, I also just feel like we kind of need to like sell our schools a little more. I personally feel like when someone tours Woodstock or Bennett, or people, I don't know if they still tour Ontario, but they kind of sell themselves. But maybe like a recruitment event, having, you know, something on our website for new and prospective families, like kind of showing the effort of wanting them and being aware of them and showing what we have to offer and making tours and things where they can, so most of our events are for people who already go to our school. But what about events for people who are like kind of want to dip their toe in and don't know a lot about it? So I sort of just wanted to put that out there as a concept.
Thank you. Requests for information. Oh, sorry, Trustee Jerome.
I did want to just second that pipeline note. And, I think that's a real serious consideration given our declining enrollment. It's a big worry. The foundation aid, the loss of foundation is also a big worry for me as we start to talk about the future of our district and what centralization, if, when, how. I still don't really know the how. I just know the sort of the blind facts. But that imminent loss of funding and the pipeline, those are two really big concerns. They're two big worries of mine.
Thank you. Trustee Knutson.
It's a very late, so I'm going to try to be really quick. I just want to make a book recommendation. I read this book recently, and it's very pertinent to things that are, I don't know if anybody saw the news today. Gavin Newsom in California signed a law saying that all of California has to have a cell phone policy within 2 years. We may be moving to that in this state. This book is called The Anxious Generation. It's by Jonathan Haidt, H-A-I-D-T. He's a psychologist. He teaches at NYU, and he's really taken on the really pertinent part for our district, I think, is sort of what social media, and particularly social media that you carry around in your pocket, are doing to children, mostly between ages of about 10 and 16. And having read this book, I just had a vision. This is for a very back burner, but I would love to have a book club discussion about this book at some point future. In my fantasy, it's board members, it's community members, it's teachers, it's kids. If we could get representatives from all those groups to agree to read this book, and maybe in December, January, something like that, we get together and talk about it, because it will change the way you look at what's going on in our society now. You can disagree or agree with his arguments, but he pulls a lot of data in here that's very interesting. And I brought my copy tonight because I'd like to offer, if any trustees would like to read it, I would offer to loan you my copy. You just have to give it back to me. But I recommend this to anybody that's watching the meeting. Good book and eye-opening in a lot of ways.
It's an amazing book, and I know you turned me onto it, and it's incredibly interesting and pertinent. Very, very good. I love the idea of a book club. It would be so great to have a conversation with, people that are either like-minded or not, and, just kind of discuss and debate that, all of his research. Any other new business or requests for information, rather? Trustee Raimondo?
So I don't know how to phrase it, but at back to school night during the civics, Max is in civics, my son is in civics, with Mr. Epstein, and he spoke to the social studies department. And I know it all kind of blended together the past couple of years of when we had a presentation from guidance and Mr. Edelman that was started by Trustee Story around grading and testing. But what they spoke to and what he spoke to was the social studies department as a whole decided to adjust their grading systems to become more real, I guess I'm going to say is the word. Like during the pandemic, we did so much to support our kids in being successful and meeting them where they were at, which is still what all of our departments and teachers do, but really wanting to have a clear picture of the student. So they adjusted their testing to be 50% and then adjusted the homework to be a part and so on and so forth, because they wanted to have a clearer view of each student and what they were actually doing. So I don't, versus an inflated one, I guess is the word I want to use, which I thought was really good to hear that they're just making a commitment across their department to find this accountability and find this realness. So I didn't know if other departments are looking to do that, if it's something that if we use social studies as a template or as maybe the incubator for it to see if it does help grades and it does help students. I don't know. I just thought it was good to hear it because I think they're just kind of putting their foot down and saying, here's what we're going to do and what we're committed to do to show what's actually happening. So I don't know if that's how that's an RFI, but I'm trying to make it that.
Trustee Lynch?
Yeah, thank you. My RFI would be around the criteria or any decision making for when we include the 6th grade in middle school, high school activities and when we don't. I'm curious, there was a recent decision announced that the 6th graders could not be involved in the homecoming activities this Friday. And I've heard from multiple parents about it, wondering if there is a criteria. I recognize the sensitivities of involving the younger grades, but just curious if that's something that we could better understand as a board and as a community about how those decisions are being made.
Thank you. Did you want to respond? Okay, thank you. Any other RFIs? Trustee Goodrich?
So sometime in the future, I think it would be good to get a presentation on the current and future utilization of the 8 high school science, technology, engineering, arts, and math classrooms. They're slated for upgrades. We upgraded one of those 8, the chemistry one. Obviously, we've had 8 classrooms since during the time we had 2,400 students. Now we're looking at the K through 3 population. And if you project that out, that's going to be around 800 students. Do we need to upgrade all 8 science classrooms? You know, if we can get some kind of a presentation on the current usage, how many students are in each classroom, and what might that look like in the future, I think it would probably help the board better understand where we are and where we might be going, especially in the space utilization. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other RFIs? All right, our next meeting is October 8th, and thank you so much for attending. We've had a few community members stay the whole meeting, and that's so great. We're happy to see you. May I have a motion to adjourn our meeting? Trustee Jerome, second. Trustee Knudsen, all in favor? Okay, we'll see you next time. Thank you.